My sister drained $70,000 from me in 3 years, but when I said no to $30,000 more, she sued me with fake evidence, and the judge fined her for fraud while I bought my first home. I'm 30 years old, I work in finance, and I need to tell this story because I literally just bought my first house last week, and I should be celebrating. But instead, I'm here trying to process how my younger sister, my own blood, basically destroyed me financially and emotionally over the last few years. And when I say destroyed, I'm not exaggerating one bit. I guess I should start from the beginning so everything makes sense. Because the truth is, none of this happened overnight. It was like a snowball that got bigger and bigger until it completely crushed me. My sister Amanda is 26 years old, 4 years younger than me, and for as long as I can remember, she's been the golden child of the family. You know? That person who can literally do whatever, and the parents find a way to justify it or ignore it. I was always the responsible one, the one who got good grades, the one who got a good job after college, the one who never caused problems. Amanda, on the other hand, bounced between part-time jobs for years, never finished college because according to her it wasn't for her, and basically lived off the small loans my parents constantly gave her. Don't get me wrong, I loved her, she's my sister, but there was always that weird dynamic where I was invisible, and she was the center of the family universe. My achievements were expected, hers were celebrated as if she'd cured cancer every time she managed to keep a job for more than 3 months. It all started like 3 years ago, when Amanda met Tyler at I don't know where. I think at a bar or a dating app, and after dating for like 6 months, the guy proposed to her. Tyler was 28 years old at that time. Seemed like a good guy at first, but I quickly realized he was just as irresponsible with money as my sister. He bounced between jobs, had a bunch of credit card debt that he was apparently paying but clearly wasn't. And basically the two of them lived in a fantasy world where money grew on trees. When they got engaged, Amanda started planning this massive wedding, like magazine wedding. And I honestly thought my parents were going to pay for most of it, because they've always been like that with her. But turns out no. Turns out they had other plans. My mom called me one day, I think it was like 2 months after the engagement, and she started with that voice she uses when she's going to ask me something. You know, that super sweet and manipulative voice that made me feel guilty before even hearing the request. She told me, "Daniel, honey, we need to talk about your sister's wedding." And I thought, okay, she probably wants me to be the best man or something, no problem. But no. She tells me that they can't cover all the wedding expenses because my dad had some problems with the business, asking if I could help with some small things. Nothing major. I asked her what exactly was some small things, and she says, well, maybe the reception venue and some of the catering. Right there, I should have seen it coming. I should have said no immediately, but I'm an idiot, and all I thought was that she's my sister. Her wedding is once in a lifetime. I can help a little. It started with the venue. The venue Amanda wanted cost like $8,000 just to rent the space for the day. $8,000. I told my mom that was a lot of money, and she came at me with the speech of, your sister is only getting married once. You make good money. You can afford it. And I, like a complete idiot, said yes. I paid for the venue. Then came the catering, which was supposedly going to be something simple, but Amanda wanted a 3-course menu with vegetarian and vegan options because apparently she had vegan friends. That was another $12,000. $12,000 on food. But wait, it doesn't end there. Then came the dress, which according to Amanda, had to be from a specific designer because she had seen one on Pinterest and fell in love. $4,500 for a dress she was going to wear literally once in her life. The flowers, the photographer, the DJ, the decorations, everything started adding up and adding up. Every time I thought I was done paying for things, my mom or Amanda would call me with something else. That the invitations had to be on special paper, that they needed a videographer in addition to the photographer, that they needed a band instead of the DJ because Tyler had a musician friend. And I kept saying yes to everything, because part of me thought that eventually they would realize how absurd it was, and they would thank me. They would value me for everything I was doing. Looking back, I realize how naive I was. I honestly disgust myself sometimes when I think about how I let myself be manipulated so easily. The wedding was in June, like 2.5 years ago, and it was exactly what Amanda wanted. Like princess wedding with everything and a castle because yes, the venue we chose had a structure that looked like a toy castle. There were like 200 guests. The food was incredible. According to everyone, the band played until 2 in the morning. Everything was perfect, and I was there. Watching all this, knowing I had spent almost $50,000 in total. $50,000. That's more than some people make in a year. More than a new car costs. And I spent it on one day, on a party for my sister. During the wedding, Amanda hugged me and told me, "Thanks, brother, you're the best." And I thought, okay, it was worth it. She's happy, the family is happy, everyone wins. How stupid I was. Seriously. The problem started like a month after the wedding. Amanda called me on a Wednesday night and told me they needed help with rent because Tyler had lost his job, again, and they weren't going to make it to the end of the month. She asked me for $800 to cover what they were short. And I, being the responsible older brother I've always been, transferred her the money without thinking twice. Then the next month it was the same thing. That they needed help with electricity and water because they had unexpected expenses. Another $500. The following month, it was $1,000 because Tyler's car needed repairs. And so it continued. Every month it was something different. Every month I transferred money, thinking it was temporary. That eventually they would stabilize and wouldn't need my help anymore. This continued for like a year and a half, like almost 2 years. I had lost count of how much money I had given Amanda after the wedding. Honestly, I didn't want to know because I knew I was going to get angry at myself. But it had to be easily another $15,000 or $20,000 in those months, adding up all the times she asked me for help. And it was never alone. She never told me I'll pay you back next month. It was always help me, please. I really appreciate it. But there was never any intention of paying it back. My savings account that I had been carefully building for years started looking sadder and sadder, and I started feeling like a walking ATM for my sister. The straw that broke the camel's back was at a family dinner. I think it was in October last year. We were all at my parents' house, eating something my mom had cooked, and Amanda very casually, like someone talking about the weather, tells me, "Hey Daniel, Tyler and I are thinking about buying a house. Do you think you can help us with the down payment?" And I just sat there with my fork in my hand thinking, is she serious? I asked her how much we're talking about, and she tells me they need like $30,000 for the down payment because they want a house in a good neighborhood. $30,000. After the $50,000 for the wedding and all the monthly money I had been giving her, she's asking me for another $30,000 like it's nothing. I told her no. I told her I had already helped a lot, and it was time for her and Tyler to figure out their own finances. And here comes the best part. This is where everything went to hell completely. Amanda looked at me with this face of total disbelief and tells me, "Are you seriously going to deny me this? I'm your sister." And I responded, "Precisely because you're my sister is why I've already helped you more than I should. You need to learn to manage your own money." She went hysterical, literally hysterical, started screaming that I was selfish, that I made good money and it wouldn't cost me anything to help her. What was the point of having a brother if I wasn't going to support her when she needed it? She called me a loser, told me I was bitter because I was alone and she had a family. That basically my money was useless if I wasn't using it to help the people I love. The worst part of it all wasn't what Amanda said to me. The worst part was that my parents were sitting there in silence without saying absolutely anything. They didn't defend me. They didn't tell Amanda to calm down or that she was being irrational. They just sat there as if they agreed with everything she was saying. And in that moment, something in me broke, something that can't be repaired. I got up from the table, told everyone I was fed up, that I wasn't going to keep being Amanda's personal bank, and I left the house. My mom called me when I was in the car telling me to come back, not to overreact, but I had already made a decision. It was over. Literally everything was over. During the following weeks, Amanda bombarded me with text messages and calls that I completely ignored. My parents also called me several times trying to mediate, but basically they wanted me to give in and help Amanda with the house. I told them no, that my answer was no, and it was going to keep being no, no matter how many times they called me. I changed my phone number and only gave the new one to some trusted people, not to my family. I blocked Amanda on all social media because I knew she was going to try to manipulate me there too. This is where things got truly crazy. Like 2 months after the disaster dinner, a mutual friend that Amanda and I have, her name is Lauren, sent me a link to a GoFundMe. Turns out Amanda had created a fundraising campaign on the internet asking for money for her house down payment, and in the description, she had written this whole dramatic story about how she and Tyler were working really hard to buy their first house, but needed help from the community because family wasn't supporting them. I read that description, and it made me so angry that I literally felt like my head was going to explode. Not only was she lying because I had supported her financially for years, but she was painting me as the villain of the story in front of all her friends and acquaintances. The best part, or the worst, depending on how you see it, is that the GoFundMe only raised $75. $75 from I don't know how many people who saw the campaign and probably thought the same thing I was thinking, that this is ridiculous. That gave me some satisfaction. I'm not going to lie, knowing that the world wasn't as stupid as Amanda thought and that people could see through her manipulation. But it also didn't make me feel completely good, because at the end of the day, it was still my sister making a fool of herself on the internet. Like 3 weeks after the GoFundMe fiasco, I get a call from a number I didn't know, and I answered thinking it was from work. It was the landlord of the apartment where Amanda and Tyler lived. The guy asks me if I'm Daniel, Amanda's brother, and I tell him yes. He tells me that Amanda stopped paying rent 2 months ago, and that when he went to talk to her about eviction, Amanda told him not to worry because her brother was going to cover everything she owed. I was in total shock. Can you believe it? This woman had stopped paying rent and had told the landlord that I was going to pay without even asking me or telling me anything. I told the landlord that Amanda had no authority to commit my money and that I wasn't going to pay anything, that he should do whatever he had to do legally with her, but to leave me out of it. I thought that was the end of everything. I thought that finally Amanda would realize she couldn't keep using my name and my money as if it were hers. But oh no, my dear sister had other plans. Like, a month later, I received by certified mail a lawsuit notification. Amanda was suing me. She was taking me to small claims court for breach of a verbal financial support agreement. According to the papers I received, Amanda alleged that I had promised to help her financially on an ongoing basis and that by withdrawing my support, I had caused her economic and emotional damages. It included screenshots of supposed text messages where I supposedly promised to always help her, messages that I knew were fake or completely taken out of context. I had to hire a lawyer for this, which cost me another $2,000 I hadn't planned to spend, and we went to court like 2 months later. The hearing was surreal. Completely surreal. Amanda arrived, dressed as if she were going to a job interview, with Tyler by her side all serious. And she started telling her version of the story, where basically I was this rich and cruel brother who had promised to support her all her life and then abandoned her when she needed me most. She presented her falsified evidence and even cried at one point, cried in front of the judge as if she were the biggest victim in the world. When it was my turn to speak, my lawyer presented all the receipts of bank transfers showing exactly how much money I had given Amanda over the years, including the $50,000 for the wedding. We presented evidence that I had never signed any legal support agreement and that all the help had been voluntary. The judge listened to everything, saw the evidence, and then asked Amanda directly if she had any real proof of a legal agreement or if all her screenshots were just casual family conversations. Amanda went quiet. She had nothing to say because she knew she didn't have a real case. The judge dismissed the lawsuit immediately and even told Amanda that she had wasted the court's time with a frivolous case. He imposed a $500 fine on her for presenting dubious evidence and looked at me with an expression that was a mix of compassion and disgust for the whole situation. I left there feeling vindicated, but also completely emotionally exhausted. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was my own sister trying to legally force me to give her money. This was a betrayal at a level I never thought I would experience with family. What happened next was almost comical if it weren't so sad. Like 2 weeks after the court hearing, my parents called me. They had gotten my new number. I don't know how. Probably some distant relative gave it to them. My dad called me and for the first time in months asked me how I was. I thought that maybe they had finally realized how toxic all this had been, that maybe they were going to apologize for not defending me or for allowing Amanda to treat me like an ATM for years. But no, turns out they were calling me because they needed my help. Amanda had maxed out all their credit cards, had taken out loans in their name without them knowing until the collection letters started arriving. And now my parents were in serious financial trouble. My dad asked me if I could lend them money to pay off the debts Amanda had created. I just stood there listening, and all I thought was, is this for real? After everything that happened, after not defending me a single time, after allowing Amanda to sue me, now they're asking me for money? I told him no. I told him I understood. It was a difficult situation for them, but that I was no longer part of this dysfunctional family dynamic. That if Amanda created that problem, they had to solve it with her, not with me. My dad started with the speech of, but we're family, children help their parents, and I cut him off, telling him that family also protects and supports their children, which they never did for me. I hung up the phone and blocked that number too. I blocked my parents from my life completely, just as I had done with Amanda. And honestly, after making that decision, I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I didn't have to worry about the next call asking for money. I didn't have to feel guilty for wanting to keep my own savings. I didn't have to deal with constant manipulation. I was free, completely free from all that toxicity. The last interaction I had with anyone in my family was like 3 months ago. Amanda got my number again. I have no idea how, but she did, and she called me with this all sweet and repentant voice. She told me she understood she had made mistakes, that she was very sorry, that she had been going to therapy and working on herself. For a second, a very brief second, I thought maybe it was genuine, that maybe she had really changed, but then she tells me that she and Tyler are expecting a baby and they need money to prepare the baby's room and buy things. And right there, I realized that nothing had changed. Absolutely nothing. This supposed apology was just another manipulation to get money from me, this time using a baby that hadn't even been born yet. I told her I wasn't going to give her money, that if they decided to have a baby, they needed to have the financial responsibility to support it without depending on me. Amanda started screaming again, calling me everything, told me I was the worst uncle in the world before the baby even existed. How could I be so cold with my own niece or nephew? I told her I hoped they would be better parents than she had been a sister, and hung up. I changed my number again. This time, only my closest friends have it and no one else. And I blocked any form of contact Amanda could have with me. Last week, I bought my house. A real house, with 3 bedrooms and a small yard, in a quiet neighborhood. I was able to do it because during the last year, I've been aggressively saving everything I used to spend on Amanda. My savings account is growing again. I'm investing in my retirement. I'm living my life without the constant anxiety of when the next request for money is coming. My friends threw me a small housewarming party, and honestly, it was one of the happiest days I've had in years. Nobody asked me for money. Nobody made me feel guilty for being successful. We just celebrated together and that was enough. I'm not going to lie and say it doesn't hurt what happened, because it does hurt. It hurts to know that my sister only saw me as a source of money. It hurts that my parents were never on my side. It hurts that I basically lost my entire family because I didn't want to keep being exploited. There are nights where I wonder if I did the right thing, if I should have tried to help in another way, if I was too harsh. But then I remember the lawsuit. I remember the lies. I remember how they called me a loser and selfish for simply setting boundaries, and I know I made the right decision. Sometimes I think about that baby Amanda is expecting, and it makes me sad because that child is going to grow up with parents who clearly don't know how to handle money or responsibilities. But I also know it's not my job to save them. It's not my job to sacrifice my own financial and emotional stability to compensate for their irresponsibility. Maybe I'm the worst uncle in the world, like Amanda said, or maybe I'm just someone who finally learned that it's okay to say no, that it's okay to prioritize your own peace of mind over toxic family expectations. I don't have all the answers, but what I do know is that I'm better off now than when I was trapped in that cycle of giving and giving without receiving anything but demands and criticism in return.